Oh, and hello and welcome to Market Madness, the podcast from GiveMeSport, where every day is like deadline day. And I'm Joel Beya, and today we're joined by GiveMeSport senior football correspondent, Mr. Ben Jacobs, live from Portugal. He'll explain why in a couple of minutes. And we've also got Fabrizio Romano, who is back on the show to bring us up to speed with all the latest transfer news. We'll also be speaking to Guillem Balague about Unai Emery and Aston Villa, plus former Lioness turned TV star Alex Scott is here as well. Come on now. We're going to get cracking onto it, but you can get involved as well. Do leave your questions for Ben and Fab when you are watching. You might leave a little cheeky something from me as well. Come on, you know. We're currently live on Facebook, YouTube, and X. And if you're listening back in the future, then please do make sure you're following us on @GiveMeSport so you can see when all the live shows are taking place. And you can get the minute-by-minute news and you can't miss what's happening. I know you want to know what's happening. So for more information, any of the stories discussed today, head over to GiveMeSport's website and make sure you're following us across socials. You can also get your questions and comments into us too live on the show. But before all of that, I would like to put Mr. Ben Jacobs on the spot with a question to ask each week. Right now, before I ask why you're in Portugal, I want to ask you, Ben, does La Liga and Serie A playing abroad pave the way for a Premier League match on foreign soil? I want to know that. I want to hear your answer. Yeah, I want to hear your answer before the end of the show. But do you reckon you'll be able to do the job?
This is a tricky one. Usually you give me a little softball transfer question, but this is sport meets politics. Let us know in the chat as well whether you think it would be a good idea for the Premier League to play a competitive fixture abroad. I think most fans, just a hunch, don't know what you think, Joel, will be against it.
Yeah. Well, no, I actually would love to see it happen. If I'm honest with you, it makes it a little bit exciting. You got to remember, I also cover NFL at times. And for me, the most exciting time is when the NFL comes to the UK. So I went to the Dublin game a couple of weeks ago, and I was at the Tottenham Stadium on Sunday. I think it's absolutely great, and it's a great way to introduce people to our leagues as well. So yeah, I love it.
I mean, look,
but
the game is global, right? But when you have an established league that you pay for and see week in, week out, you're an Arsenal fan, right? Now, I know if they took a game abroad, it wouldn't be the North London derby. But imagine if you're an Arsenal season ticket holder and it's a game against, let's just say, West Ham, picking another London derby. You buy your season ticket, and then 3 months in, you're told that game is going to be in Miami. I think a lot of fans would feel a bit shortchanged because they look forward to those fixtures. The only caveat, and I get the global expansion, is if your club, if you're the home team, then reach into their back pocket and say, you can have a week in Miami, we'll pay for it. Your season ticket is still valid. Maybe that's a different story. But I think a lot of football fans that pay hard-earned money will feel very uncomfortable with the idea that one of their home fixtures might be moved abroad. But I'll find out by the end of the show what the Premier League's perspective is on all of this.
Yeah, maybe. It's an interesting one. It really is. But I want to ask you more than anything, why Portugal? What is going on?
Yeah, we're speaking about taking things abroad. And here I am in Portugal, and senior football correspondent Paul Gilmore will be with me as well. And what I can reveal is that GiveMeSport are proud to announce we are the official media partner for the Portugal Football Summit, which gets underway this evening. Now, across the 4 days, either me or Paul will be bringing you all the behind the scenes and some exclusive interviews. Tonight, the UEFA president, Alexander Ceferin, is on stage. He may be asked about those La Liga and Serie A games abroad. And then over the next 3 days or so, we've got Roberto Martinez, Sol Campbell to speak about your beloved Arsenal and, of course, Tottenham. Nani is there. Sergio Conceição, who's just agreed to take the Al Ittihad job in Saudi Arabia, and several other top names. So stay tuned online on Market Madness over the next few days and on our Instagram channel as well, because we'll have all of the updates from the stage behind the scenes and several exclusive interviews to follow as well.
Can I just ask, obviously we are the official international media partner, like you said, and there's obviously other media partners there. Are you going to have the type of access that you had, like when you met Jose Mourinho and he shook your hand last week. It was so good. I reshared it on my own platforms as well, man. I was like, this is incredible.
Yeah, funnily enough, that was just a regular press conference, and I was front row as I tend to be, because it's always easier to stick your hand up and get noticed. And when you have busy press conferences, I always tell young journalists, get yourself on that front row. Don't be shy, because if there's a lot of people looking to ask questions, the press officer is going to see you first. And Jose was kind enough to come over and meet and greet all of the media after. And some of us knew him from his first and second spell at the club too. And he gave a lot of time, but a much better story than Ben Jacobs' handshake, which was nothing, to be honest, was actually Jose Mourinho meeting Teresa Connolly, a long-standing and current Chelsea employee who was just to the right of the press conference. And they shared a hug and a nice long chat. And it shows you that Jose doesn't forget anything about that football club. And equally as cool was after the game. And remember, Mourinho lost, so he could have been in a very different mood. Brian Pullman was there, another ex-Chelsea employee who retired about a year ago. And he came back. And there's this whole sort of tradition where when Mourinho was at Chelsea, Brian Pullman would give him custard creams. And Jose Mourinho basically argued they were the best biscuit in the world. So Brian Pullman came out of retirement and he brought Mourinho for his post-match press conference some custard cream biscuits. And again, Mourinho didn't forget that, and they shared a nice embrace as well. So yes, the answer to your question, hopefully we're going to get some handshakes and some all access and some behind the scenes. But with that Mourinho story, fair play to him. It was a great occasion. He lost the game, but he still had a smile on his face. And it was good to see him interact with some long-standing Chelsea staff, both past and present.
And of course, Ben Jacobs as well. But listen, as we say that, I believe that there is some breaking news. Can we please roll it in?
Yeah, here we go with breaking news. We'll have this throughout the show, of course, because every day is like deadline day. And this is about Joshua Zirkzee, who I am told is prepared to now leave Manchester United in January, even though Ruben Amorim wants him to stay. Now, this is a fascinating scenario that is very different to that of Rasmus Højlund, because Højlund wanted to stay at Manchester United and the club wanted him to leave, and subsequently he went to Napoli. This is kind of the opposite. And Zirkzee is starting to get a little bit worried about his World Cup chances. Game time is limited. Benjamin Sesko has arrived. Mateus Cunha can also play as a number 9. So Zirkzee, a bit like Kobbie Mainoo, could now ask for a loan move to get minutes with the World Cup in mind. And I think a lot of this has been prompted by the events in recent days where he was left out of the squad for the qualifiers against Malta and Finland during this international break. Zirkzee has only played 82 minutes total this season, and yet United still view him as valuable, not just for his potential goal-scoring ability, but the defensive attributes he brings, and the fact that he covers a lot of ground all across the field and is versatile and can play anywhere across the front line. But Zirkzee wants more immediate game time. Manchester United can't offer him that as it stands at the moment. So for January, keep an eye on PSV, because I'm told that they are open to a loan deal. Napoli were interested, past tense, but they've now added Rasmus Højlund. So it's very unlikely, if not impossible, that they will return. But again, to reiterate here, unlike Rasmus Højlund, Manchester United are reluctant to sanction an exit. And if it was to be a permanent sale, it would not be entertained whether January or the summer, unless Manchester United could do better than a book loss. And they paid 43 million, of course, in signing Zirkzee from Bologna. So I think this is going to be difficult for Josh Zirkzee to get a move away. But the player is now prepared to explore options because he's not getting enough game time at Manchester United.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny because he probably suffers a little bit from where Manchester United are currently, because I do think he's a decent player. He's got great feet. You know, he suffered really tough times on the pitch last year, but he had good attitude to kind of turn it around. And the World Cup comes every 4 years. you don't really want to be missing that, I reckon. So hopefully things can be resolved, but it's part of the business, right?
Yeah, I think the other thing, Joel, is just that when Rasmus Højlund was linked with a move away, and when Manchester United didn't get Liam Delap, didn't bid for Ollie Watkins, and it was Newcastle that were pushing at the time for Benjamin Sesko, I think Højlund would have felt very valued, and like he maybe would start the season as a number 9 or get a lot of opportunities off the bench. But instead, we see a scenario where you have Sesko coming in, which was always expected. Zirkzee would have known that Manchester United were going to sign a number 9, but then Cunha kind of being the backup number 9, so a 10 by trade, can go wide left. But when Sesko hasn't started, it's Cunha that's got the nod to be the most advanced player. And as Zirkzee's realised that, I think he's starting to sweat a little bit because he realises that it's not a guarantee he's going to make that Netherlands World Cup squad.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. But we do also have Fabrizio coming on. I mean, obviously, we've got like a check-in with him, and hopefully he can give us the news and the information that we need. I find it interesting that yourself and him, you're constantly working, even when it's not transfer deadline day. I mean, I thought you was tired during the transfer period. You're in Portugal. You're moving around more than I am, Ben.
Well, you do the same. I've seen you on a sponsored table. I won't name the brands for the Champions League football. You get around as well. I reckon if we went like for air miles across the whole season, you might actually outdo me.
I don't know. We'll let Fab decide. But it is time now for us to speak with Fab, the guy who never stops working. He caught up with myself and Ben earlier on. Let's take a look at this.
Fabrizio Romano is with us, looking healthy, well slept, and cleanly shaven. How are you, my friend?
All very good. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Always a pleasure to be together. Thank you.
And Joel is back with you for the first time since he's become a married man.
We're in, guys.
And as I like to always say, the married man gets to go first. And that's because the first 2 questions, spoiler alert, are on your beloved Arsenal, Joel.
Yes, that's right. Okay, Fab. So first question is this. David Raya. He has signed improved terms at Arsenal, which is absolutely fantastic. And of course, he's just announced a new baby with his wife.
Yeah, it's a great moment for David Raya. I would say a great moment for Arsenal in general, because there is a great feeling, a great atmosphere at the club. It's not just about the results, it's about what they're building there. And so a very good connection between the players, Arteta, the new director, Andrea Berta, who did an important job this summer. So they're all together into this. And David Raya is a big part of this project. So Arsenal basically want all the players to be happy, and this is why they gave David Raya improved terms on his contract. It's not going to change the length of the contract, will stay 2028, but he already committed and signed to this contract with improved terms, so a better salary, well deserved by David Raya. He's a big part of this project, so Arsenal wanted to show the full confidence, and I think this is part of something they're showing to all the players, all the important players they have at the club, like keeping William Saliba was obviously important, one of the best in the world, but it's just also about the timing. To do that at the end of September, beginning of October, is really important to show the players the confidence and to avoid the speculation during the season. That's what Arsenal wanted to do. The same with David Raya, big part of this project, and so this new contract is signed.
Nah, that's beautiful, man, and he's done so well, I have to say. What about Bukayo Saka? Is he next on the list with a new signed contract?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to be between Saka, Jarry and Timber. There are conversations ongoing, but it's not an urgent case, because Bukayo is very happy at Arsenal. They are very happy with him. So there is mutual feeling between the parties. And so the expectation is to try to reach an agreement very soon. But at the same time, again, no pressure. Arsenal know that Bukayo is very happy. So it's just about reaching an agreement on the financial terms of the contract. But I think there is a big optimism on reaching this agreement and to keep Bukayo for the long term.
Let's stay with North London, Fabrizio, and move on to Spurs. Joao Paulinho has had a really positive start at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. How likely do you think Spurs are to take up the option to buy?
I think there is a good chance to see Paulinho staying at Tottenham in 2026. Then let's see if it's going to be via the option or maybe they want to renegotiate with Bayern. It's too early to say, still the beginning of October, so many months to go before they make any decision. But internally, the feeling is very positive. Paulinho is happy at Tottenham. He can play. He loves the Premier League, loves living in London. Very good feelings with the coach, Thomas Frank. And Tottenham are also very happy with him. So it's a very, very good deal for all parties involved. Now it's going to be about the agreement with Bayern in 2026. Again, it's still early. So let's see how the season will go. But the start of this loan deal has been very positive, and all parties are more than happy to continue together. So I would be quite optimistic on that one. But again, it's still a long season, and we have to see what's going to happen next.
Now, a lot of talk about Harry Kane and his future, even though Kane has said repeatedly and publicly that he's happy at Bayern and only focused on Bayern. But the release clause diminishes to 65 million euros in 2026. Is there any chance of a Premier League return for Kane after the World Cup next summer?
Look, I think there is some possibility to see that happening, but what I can guarantee is that we have to forget about that speculation now and for the next months, because till the World Cup, Harry Kane will not make any kind of decision. When he says in public that he's very happy at Bayern is the reality. Obviously, the numbers of the start of the season are incredible. So it's not just about the numbers, the goals, the assists. Harry is very happy with Vincent Kompany as a coach, with his teammates, with the whole project at Bayern. They feel at Bayern, Kane and all the others, that they can win every title this season, that they will be competitive in all the competitions. Harry Kane obviously also wants to make something special happen at the World Cup, and so no distraction about transfers and all the rest. Then Premier League, we see what's going to happen after the World Cup. We see what kind of season Bayern will have, but I can guarantee that now, today, and the next few months, the full focus of Harry Kane is only going to be on Bayern, and so I don't think we will have any kind of talk or contact for Harry Kane to return to Premier League now. We will see in the near future. That could be a possibility, but now full focus on Bayern.
Chelsea have been hit with several injuries. Like, honestly, they're suffering out there. Is there a chance that they're going to be able to bring in a new defender come January?
A chance, I would say I would keep it open, because we never know what's going to happen there. As you mentioned, many injuries, and we have to see how some of these players will recover. So we have to wait and see on that one. What I can tell you today is that Chelsea are not actively working to sign a new centre-back now. So Chelsea have not started any process to bring in a new centre-back. They are still very happy with the squad they have. They believe that the depth of the squad is already very good and what they needed to play at the best level possible in all the competitions. So at the moment, it's very quiet at Chelsea. Then if maybe in December there will be again injuries, problems, that might be a possibility. But at the moment, I can guarantee that everything is very calm, and they're more than happy with the squad they have, very happy with the talents they have, like Achampong. So at the moment, nothing is happening in terms of actively working on a new centre-back deal.
Okay. And what about Manchester United? They obviously still need a midfielder. We can see that sometimes the balance is off, especially with the shape. Any chance that one arrives in January? And who is on their short list of midfielders if that's the case?
Yeah, I think it's a possibility for Man United to go for a new midfielder in January. Then, in this case, will depend on opportunities. I don't think the January window, not just for Man United, but in general, is about big names moving. So unless there is an opportunity of a big name, I think that has to be the window of maybe a loan deal or a last-minute chance on the market. For example, Man United tried for Conor Gallagher in the final days of the summer transfer window. So that kind of opportunity, in case he becomes available, or any other player with that kind of skills becomes available on a good deal, maybe on a loan with an option to buy, for Man United might be interesting. But at the moment, we are not in that direction yet. Again, it's still very early before saying the clubs actively working on these kind of deals. But what I can tell you is that Man United in 2026, whether it's going to be January or summer transfer window, want to change something in the midfield. And so that's going to be an important position to cover.
Let's move on to a Fabrizio Romano exclusive in the last 48 hours. And that is a surprise move for Sergio Reguilon to Inter Miami. Now, at the time you broke this story, Fabrizio, it wasn't a done deal, but it was very possible. How likely 24 hours on is this deal now to come off?
I think it will happen. I would say 99% will happen, just waiting on some formal steps. Today, Jordi Alba announced his retirement, and obviously Inter Miami wanted to respect a legend like Jordi Alba before closing any deal. But I think this deal now in the next days will happen, because Reguilon has several proposals from La Liga. Persepolis in Iran offered him almost 4 million euros net season salary, which is a record one for the club. But Reguilon wants to go to Inter Miami, wants to try this opportunity in MLS. And so he's a free agent. You don't need any negotiation just to get the green light of the player. And if the player only wants to go Inter Miami, means that this deal will happen. So according to my information, this will be done in the next days. And I see Reguilon playing next to Leo Messi at Inter Miami.
Another free agent is Renan Lodi after leaving Al Hilal. Any suitors you're aware of? There's been some suggestions from Saudi reporters that there might be even some Premier League clubs interested in him.
Yeah, at the moment, from what I heard, just some conversations with his agents, because obviously it's a big opportunity. A player like Renan Lodi on a free could be a very, very good opportunity. So there is some interest from England, some interest also from Italy, some calls from Italy. But at the moment, from what I'm told, still nothing advanced, nothing really, really concrete, just conversations. I think we need some patience before we understand which club will really go for Renan Lodi. Also, he was on a big salary in Saudi, so financially we have to understand what he's going to accept as next step for his career, but for sure it's going to be an interesting one to follow for the upcoming weeks.
I want to finish it up with managers, guys. Ange Postecoglou first. Will he be given more time after the loss to Newcastle, or do you reckon he's down and out?
Look, at the moment, there is still nothing decided, so I think there is still a chance he will have more time to show his skills and to change the situation at Nottingham Forest. We know is not an easy situation after the recent results, but at the moment, I'm not aware of Nottingham Forest already in talks with another manager or telling Postecoglou that it's over. So I think there is still a chance to see him continuing at the club. Again, let's see, because we know with Nottingham Forest managers, there is always this question mark if things are not working, so we never know the reaction from the owners, but at the moment the situation is still under control, and I think he will have the opportunity to try change the situation.
Also, Russell Martin, he was sacked from Rangers after just 123 days in charge. Who could replace him at the Ibrox Stadium?
Yeah, there are internal conversations ongoing about this. There is the opportunity maybe to bring back Steven Gerrard. It's an idea they have internally at the club, but from what I'm hearing, they're still not decided who is going to be the new coach, and they still don't know what Steven Gerrard wants to do next in his career, whether he wants to go back to Scotland or not. So it's going to be about Gerrard's decision and about the internal decision they want to make at Rangers. They have 2-3 candidates they are considering internally. Gerrard is one of them, but again, we are not yet at the decision stage, so let's wait a bit more, but soon we'll have news on Rangers manager.
Fab, honestly, it always feels good hearing you talk, but it felt extra juicy today with those Arsenal contracts re-signed. I'll tell you that for sure. Thank you very much for joining us, guys. Please make sure you're following Fabrizio Romano on socials. I mean, who doesn't at the moment? But if you haven't, please do so on YouTube. Check out his bits on at GiveMeSport.com as well. The main man. Thank you very much, Fab.
Thank you, guys. Always a pleasure. I will see you soon. Ciao.
Cheers. Bye.
Ciao. Oh, he's muted. Joel Beya.
Oh my gosh. You know what? It's
the amount of stick I got off air for being muted and we weren't even live. And there it is.
This is why you have to stay humble. Relax, huh? Stay humble, eh? But yeah, always good to hear from Fab. Do you know what it is? To me, it seems like back in the day, Ben, do you remember when you're doing like reporting on news and transfer news? It felt like transfer topics were only relevant during the transfer window. But I think as the game's evolved and there's journalists such as yourself that are constantly working hard and there's social media, you got to be on your game all the time, innit? It's like it's happening all the time.
Yeah, I've got a panel actually at the Portugal Football Summit, and a reminder, GiveMeSport are the official media partner for it. And I'll be on stage with Tancredi Palmieri, Italian football expert, and David Ornstein, and we'll be speaking about that exact topic. I encourage you to look at the social clips that will be online, probably mid-afternoon on the 10th of October. And we're basically going to be speaking about that balance between trying to be faster, but you always have to prioritize your process and being right. And maybe 10, 15 years ago, before I broke into journalism, a lot of the print guys could get a line as early as the morning and then hold it for 24 hours and know it would be on the back page. And now you could be crafting your 1,000-word exclusive, and before you know it, someone else has put 10 words on social media and beaten you to the punch. So it's a balancing act. But I always say one thing: be right over being first. If you can be first and right, great, but it's still better to be right and second than wrong and first.
Yeah, or you will get crucified on socials. But hang on a minute. Breaking news has just come in, Ben. There is breaking.
Yeah, this is just a quick one, and it's really 1% of breaking news, because as we just heard from Fabrizio Romano, he was 99% sure Sergio Reguilon is joining Inter Miami, and we spoke to him last night, I can now tell you with 100% certainty that Sergio Reguilon has agreed to join Inter Miami. So there's a verbal agreement in principle pending formalization. And my understanding is that Reguilon, having played for Spurs and, of course, that loan spell at Manchester United as well, has agreed a 3-year contract all the way to December 2028 through the end of the 2028 MLS season. So Sergio Reguilon to Inter Miami, a verbal agreement for him to sign as a free agent is now in place.
That's fantastic. You know what? I always thought he did okay during his loan spell at Manchester United. You know,
Same as well.
Yeah, I think it was more that the team was in a rough patch, but I thought he did all right, to be fair. But anyway, Ben, do you remember a time when Aston Villa were playing in the Championship? Do you remember?
I do.
Yeah, not too long ago, I have to say. It was like 6 years ago, and they were using the cheat code, which is Jack Grealish in the Championship. And you know what? It's. I have to say though that they've gone to a new level since Unai Emery's taken over, replacing Steven Gerrard, who is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, English midfielder of all time, Stevie G. This month marks the 3-year anniversary of Unai Emery, the renowned Spanish journalist Guillem Balague has been looking at it in detail in his new book called Rise of the Villains, which is out now on Amazon. And he caught up with Ben, our very own Ben Jacobs, this week to reveal more about what makes Emery tick and whether the tag of Europa League specialist is something he relishes or he's bothered by. Take a look at this.
Come from media perceptions or fans' perceptions, and that stay at the gate of the training ground. Doesn't go in. And I give you an example of that. When I went recently, 3 weeks ago or so, to take the book to him, the season hadn't started well. And of course, I listened to Aston Villa fans. I hadn't spoken to him since the beginning of the season. And there was this impression that perhaps trying to do the same thing wouldn't work, that maybe there has to be an adjustment somewhere because the team seems so flat. Is there anything new that can be done? So I came with that idea, and then we're discussing the season, and then I mentioned that, and this idea that the changes to be made is a media perception, is a fan perception, and I was affected by it. So a couple of hours later, we're going to take a picture with the book, and he started having a go at me. So you're so negative, and come with this negativity, and da-da-da-da. And it's very rare for me to actually be described as negative, but secondly, to fall into that trap of projecting what's outside that world into that world. And my fault was double, because I shouldn't do it, but certainly having been a year there, I should have remembered that it's got no effect to them. It's got no importance. They're in the process. Not everybody understands it. Nobody knows what it is that they're doing. But because I was privileged to know a little bit, I shouldn't have come out with that cloud from the outside in, because he doesn't want to know. He doesn't read the papers. Reads like 6 or 7 Spanish papers mostly about what's going on back in his land. But tags, he just doesn't care. I mean, what he sees, he knows what he is. He knows his weaknesses and strengths. Nothing outside will disturb me. So he was trying to tell me it's not change that's required. It's more of the same. And let's work on what people are strong at. Let's find what we can get from the new guys. Let's get people that are out of form in form. That has always been the job. So, lesson learned. But when you talk about tag and what people consider him, he doesn't care. He does say that Europe is massive for him. He will always repeat that, because he's giving him everything. He's giving him the prestige, the money, the possibility to be Aston Villa. But if people think he's just a good evening man and whatever else, which he wanted to copyright, by the way. That was finding that out. That was quite funny. It's just up to them. Yeah, sometimes when he gets toxic like he did at Arsenal, it hurts, because it means that he cannot explain at that point what he's doing or what he would like to do. And there were things inside the camp, namely Ozil, that were conspiring against him. So there was a lot of things to fight and not enough people to fight it with. So he was more annoyed at the fact that he was on his own, that at the fact that people thought whatever they thought of him. And unfinished business for him was to return to the Premier League and says, no, I can do it with my way of doing it, which is proven to be the case.
Just a quick word on last season. What's Unai Emery's assessment of it? Villa didn't get Champions League. They finished in 6th place. And you mentioned, interestingly, in the season they did get Champions League football, he wanted points in the bag because maybe he felt they'd be burned out towards the end of the season. And yet last season, I think Villa managed to win 8 of their last 10 games, despite missing out on a top 5 finish.
Yeah, their problem was the 5 draws at home. One less, it would have been different, and that was the annoyance. But in the last game against Manchester United at halftime, well, he told everyone not to tell him what the other results were. It was all about getting a result at Old Trafford, which didn't happen, and he was disappointed at the end. And there was that moment where he starts looking at the distance, because there was so much in his head, so much more than people know. Well, the people will know now because it's in the book. But there was a lot in his head, and it was a moment that it was like emotional volcano inside. That was his feeling at the time. That needed to come out somehow, and it did. But considering that in January, February, it didn't look like they were even going to make it to Europe, it seemed. Not to win the Champions League was disappointing. But very, very quickly, it became, but we are in the Europa League. They needed a rest. They needed to overcome the disappointment, but they are in the Europa League. And as you can see, and having just beaten Feyenoord away, it's a competition that everybody feels looking forward to playing. And in my eyes, it's perhaps right now in the situation and the squad that they've got is the one they belong to. And then, if they win it, they'll be in the Champions League next year and maybe in a better position to get some players that can help them do well then.
And if we finish up with this season, there was that momentum, even though the Manchester United result stopped them qualifying for the Champions League. But those 8 wins out of 10 should still give you a building block. But then it was in many ways a summer of uncertainty. Monchi ended up departing. Some of the players we thought might leave are still at Aston Villa, but maybe there's an effect on interest in Emi Martinez or Ollie Watkins, though they're both still there in Villa shirts. How do you explain the summer? And do you think some of that uncertainty has led to this indifferent start in the league for Aston Villa?
Yeah, I think there was a period where expectations were big. Obviously, you come on the back of Asensio and Rashford, say, and on the verge of the Champions League, you want to build on that. But then you soon realize that, in fact, what has to happen is to reduce the wages. What has to happen is that, a homeboy has to leave, and Jacob Ramsey. So with that created an atmosphere inside and outside the camp of disappointment. So the season didn't start well. Even at Villa Park, I think fans were not at the races, neither were the players. Obviously, Unai always say how much he needs the fans, and he absolutely means it. That energy that they bring, that enthusiasm that they bring, that when they're down, they help them. All that was a little bit missing. But of course, the fans will tell you the players weren't given as much. Yes, that's right. Some players are in a very good form. And Ollie Watkins will look bad if he doesn't receive the service. And Morgan Rogers is 22. Perhaps he's going through one of those periods in which he's got to learn and dig deep to actually come back to the form that everybody expects. New players have to be adapted. So there was a lot of things that was verging towards me coming to Unai in the training ground saying, you have to change things. A lot of negativity, or not everybody was in the same place. And that is little by little changing on the back of victories. Performances can improve for sure, but 3 wins in a row make everybody look life in a different way. The atmosphere is different in the changing room, and now, all right, who else can add? Because we're still talking about Tielemans coming back from injury, be fully fit. As we're saying, the likes of Morgan Rogers finding his role in the side. Emi Martinez has to shake up whatever he had in his head, and now he's injured. So there's still things going on, but it feels like wins will help everybody settle. And from here, you'll see, I'm sure, better performances. Let's see results, but certainly better performances. The weaknesses are clear. I think it will be corrected in January. They need more pace up front. They need wide players. And that perhaps, again, it was the disappointment of not having those players to work on for now. But all in all, it's a process that it's taking Aston Villa where it is now, and there is still room for improvement. The results at the beginning of the season may not say so. The results now may look that way. It'll be up and down. I do believe it's going to be a hard season, and the signings on January will be important, but I wouldn't bet on Aston Villa qualifying for Europe again and doing well in the Europa League.
And how does Roberto Alabe change things following the departure of Monchi?
So with Monchi, there was a lot of focus, of course, on the now, and they wanted to get the best deals with the constraints that they had, and they got really good deals, and they prepared all the youngsters coming through, etc. With Roberto Alabe, while Unai remains in the now, he wants results now, he wants players that make an impact now. Roberto Alabe will have an impact on the medium and long term. So to start with, kicks away the idea, I don't know where it came from, that Unai was leaving or whatever. Unai chooses Roberto Alabe. They work together. There's a lot of stories of them too at Almeria and after in the book. The relationship is very, very close, but they represent two different things. They've always wanted to work together, having done it at Almeria again. And there were times where it almost happened because the push of Unai and the passion of Unai to shape the side constantly, centimeter by centimeter, it goes in contraposition to Roberto Alabe, who looks at the bigger picture. And perhaps the new Aston Villa, this is me saying that, but especially with Roberto Alabe, with the success that he had, firming philosophy of players coming through, of an idea of football, etc. Perhaps they can focus more on that, on creating a pattern of players that come into the first team. And maybe Unai, if Roberto convinces him, maybe Unai should allow 2 or 3 players to get it right and wrong, as they are 18, 19, 20, impressing and bringing something new, and not focusing so much on the now, because the now requires perhaps a lot of money that's not there, that has to come in as income. And the income will increase, but maybe not at the pace that Unai will want those big players to come in. Meanwhile, Roberto can actually say, yeah, okay, but I'm going to be looking after this other part, and I'm going to bring you players that will be useful to you eventually.
There has been, and there will continue to be, a lot of speculation about Villa outgoings. Morgan Rogers next summer, Emi Martinez, Manchester United last summer, Ollie Watkins, Arsenal and Manchester United over the last 2 windows. Villa's financial situation has led them to have to sanction some sales in the past. But presumably, this is not a football club now that view themselves as a selling club.
Everybody's got to understand where Aston Villa is. And if to move forward, you need to sell, they will do so, obviously. What club doesn't do that? Maybe the clubs that have got the biggest amount of money. But they are a club, like most, that for the right figure, but the right figure in some cases, you're talking to big names, is a big figure, can mean a transfer. It can. But what they will never do, and Unai will never allow this to do it, is selling a player to fill gaps or to pay debts. It has to be as part of a bigger process that has to do, if eventually Morgan Rogers, you decide to sell Morgan Rogers, make sure that you've got something in place for that to be replaced immediately. But obviously Morgan Rogers was not for sale this summer. So it's that he has to arrive at the right moment when perhaps Morgan feels he's learning off. Perhaps he feels that to push on, he's got to go somewhere else. Perhaps the club feels that that's the case. If they found themselves in that position in 4 or 5 years' time, then that will happen. 3 years, whatever. And what people have to understand is that the project continues in the hands of people that have responded well to those situations and that have got solutions because they would have studied them in detail. So no club is alien to that. But it won't be done as a solution to fill a gap, because then they will become a different type of club. This is a club that is growing. They want to do it with the players that have got there and new coming in. But if some have to go, some will have to go.
So bringing it back to the book, it is, of course, called The Rise of the Villains. And presumably you wanted that word rise very specifically in the title. So that begs this final question. How far can Aston Villa rise?
We don't know. And yes, I wanted the rise word in it. And there was a discussion about it because it's like, oh, how about if they reach the top? How about if when the book comes out? Because obviously the name gets picked a year earlier, a year before it comes out. How about if it's not a rise? And I said, look, after looking at what's going on inside, it is a rise. It has been a rise, and it will continue to be a rise. But as I said, it won't be just a continuous straight line. How far they can go, it depends on so many factors. Obviously, they don't want to build a new stadium, but the stadium will grow, will bring more money. There's a new president of business operations. He's got to double up income, but in a very short period, the previous one actually doubled up the money that was coming in. So there's a possibility of keep growing. But I set the limits. It's based in Birmingham. Birmingham is growing, and at some point when the fast train comes in, maybe we'll be talking differently. But it's still Birmingham. It's not London. It's not Manchester either. In terms of the money that comes in and the money of people that come in and are not unhappy to spend £1,000 in a game. That doesn't happen. It happens at other clubs. So there is a limit. But these people inside, they are disruptors, and you need to understand that in a positive way. People that say, yeah, I know that's the way, or others have taken that way. We're going to take another way. We're going to ask if the rules are right. We're going to try to see if we can push on. And with that mentality, that can take Aston Villa still far. Perhaps next is stability. Perhaps next is continuous years in Europe. But, we're talking about 3 years. For a club to jump status requires a decade or more. And hopefully it be done faster. And hopefully with Unai Emery in the realms for a long time. But if not, in my eyes, they have now the structure, the processes, and the ambition to continue to rise.
So The Rise of the Villains inside Unai Emery's Aston Villa Revolution came out on the 25th of September. Orion Publishing Group are the publisher, and the book features exclusive interviews with Unai Emery, Monchi, Ollie Watkins, John McGinn, Pau Torres, and more. Guillem, where can people find the book?
You'll find it in any bookstore, in Amazon, of course, as well. And if you want it signed, I don't know when you're going to bring this interview out, but on the 15th of October, we are at the Wheaton Arms with an amazing Aston Villa night with Ian Taylor, Andy Townsend, Alec McAnally, Stan Petrov, James Chester, and some of the people within the club that tells you how it all works, like the head of cuisine, the head of player liaison, head of comms. They will come in, and there will be music. There's a comedian. We raffle stuff. We're raising money for Children's Hospital in Birmingham, and also for Biggleswade United, the club I'm the chairman of. And at the end, we'll be signing books as well, and you can buy them there. So 15th of October, 7 p.m, Wheaton Arms, if you're in the area.
Top stuff, Guillem. Congratulations on yet another amazing book. Good luck with the continued launch and promotion, and thank you so much for being so generous as ever with your time.
Thank you, and for looking after books. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. You know, you can see a whole lot more from that interview with Guillem Balague on the GiveMeSport YouTube channel and his book, Rise of the Villains. It is out now. I have to say, right? Do we have some breaking news, Ben? Let me know. Let me know.
We do. Well, we went over to the red half of Manchester when we broke Joshua Zirkzee could be looking for options in 2026. So only fair we do the blue half of Manchester. And what I can tell you is Bernado Silva is expected to leave Manchester City next summer. He's already said publicly he knows what he's doing next, but hasn't revealed any more. What I can tell you is Silva's contract expires in the summer, and he is expected to depart on a free transfer. Now, on the one hand, Silva is a leading Saudi target and has been engaged in on-off talks with deal makers since the summer of 2023, when Al Hilal made an offer worth around £500,000 a week. Al Hilal are unlikely to return in 2026. Saudi sources tell me Al Ali and Al Qadsiya have both inquired, and Silva has and continues to give serious consideration to Saudi Arabia. But crucially, it is not his only option. And I can reveal a return back to Benfica is also a very viable possibility. And it's something that Silva is open to. In addition, and as an aside, there's no guarantee Jose Mourinho is manager by next season. His 2-year Benfica deal includes a 1-year break clause. And the feeling from sources is that Roberto Martinez will leave Portugal after the 2026 World Cup rather than sitting down and agreeing an extension. And Mourinho is being eyed up for that role. So keep an eye on Bernardo Silva and Benfica, even though Jose Mourinho may not be the manager by the time that deal comes around. And Saudi also are engaged in talks. Bernardo Silva expected to leave Manchester City next summer.
Wow, wow, wow. You know, it's interesting because as much as he deserves to go anywhere he wants to go, not that I'm the decision maker, but he's given so much to the club.
He'll be listening though to you, Joel. Your voice carries weight.
I think he's just done so much. But my worry would be that's another experienced head that's gone, you know, at Manchester City. And I don't know, you need to keep the spine there, man. Otherwise, it'll be very tough for Pep or the next manager that comes in if Pep decides to leave. Who knows? But that's just my thoughts in general.
Yeah, I mean, they've obviously had a bit of a revamp, though, in that midfield area. Silva's versatile, but Rayan Cherki's come in. Omar Marmoush can play in that role. Rodri's back from injury in the deeper lying position too. So I think City will feel the midfield revamp is done. That's also why they were prepared to let İlkay Gundogan leave, even though at the beginning of the window, he had the 1-year option triggered. And then by the end of it, he'd gone off to Turkey. So Manchester City, for me, will feel quite calm about their options in the centre of the park. Calvin Phillips is still somehow there as well. And as a consequence, I think Silva going will come as no surprise, which is why City haven't as yet taken any steps to try and get Silva to change his mind. And as far as I'm aware, there isn't a new extension on the table for Silva as it stands.
Okay. Well, I guess so. Every era has to come to an end. But now the Women's Champions League got underway this week, and it's on a new platform this season. For former England and Arsenal defender turned TV presenter Alex Scott is part of the Disney Plus team who will be bringing you all the action. And she caught up with GiveMeSport's Paul Gilmore. Take a look.
For Women's Champions League to be, it has its home on Disney Plus, and not just, you know, those big moments and big games, but from the very start all the way to the very end to highlight, showcase these different journeys of teams and players. It's a big moment.
What are you expecting from the competition this year?
more drama. We get to see a lot more action, which is great. But I think what we love about women's football now is that you have so many talents spread across so many different leagues in different countries, and almost highlighting not just the big names, but kind of those untold stories and first timers to be playing in this competition. Because I remember the first time I ever played in the Women's Champions League, and it was a big moment, and we want to make sure we don't miss that.
If you talk about those memories, if you could kind of pick out one from your memories of playing in the tournament and what it means for the excitement, what would it be? I suppose it's difficult to name just one.
No, for me it's easy. Obviously, when we got to the final, we managed to win it in 2007, and I think what I loved about that moment is, yes, we finally got our hands on that trophy, but no one expected us to. It's that underdog story, but what it meant to us as, Arsenal Football Club, but also the impact of what it had for other teams in our league at that time, and that's what you always want. Sometimes it's always bigger than just you and your club. It's about the impact that it can have.
What about the English teams in the tournament this year? How do you assess their chances?
Oh, geez, up there when you think about Chelsea and the additions that they've added, star quality players, they've got strength in depth and a great manager in Sonia Bonpastor, someone I played against in my playing days as well. But I think they are the team that everyone is tipping to maybe go on and lift that trophy. But they've been tipped in many other years and haven't done it yet. So I don't know. I think they are a very strong team. When you think about Arsenal, obviously the holders, they want to retain that trophy, but Manchester United, first time is in there as well, and they're going well in the WSL at the moment, so you hope that continues into this competition.
In general terms, what about women's sport? I suppose more generally, because obviously England and the Lionesses winning the tournament, the Rugby World Cup success, even just sport in general at the moment for women's, English women's sport seems to be right up here at the moment.
Goes back to investment. If you invest in a product, you get the rewards. And for so long, women's sport, women's football, rugby, when we're talking about cricket as well, it's like, we'll just keep them to the side. But actually now you can see if you actually back it and do it in the right ways. And we're not just talking about money, we're talking about the training facilities, the physios, the doctors, the travel, everything that goes into making you an elite athlete. You are now seeing the rewards of that. And it's been a long time coming.
You touched upon Arsenal earlier. I just wondered what you made of their start to the season, and 2 wins, 2 draws, unbeaten.
Yeah, I think because when you think about them as being now Champions League holders and you're hoping that they're going to kick on and push on to that next levels, they're a team that's always going to be all eyes on them, and when they are drawing games that maybe they should win, there's going to be a lot of discussion and talking points around that. But when you play for Arsenal, you're expected to win and get trophies, and it's a good pressure.
Is it psychological as well, because of Chelsea proving last season they could go a whole campaign unbeaten and drop just 6 points along the way? Does it almost leave no room for error in case they do and repeat that again?
Yeah, exactly that. I think it's the same in the men's game, right? When you saw that last minute winner from Arsenal and how much it meant to them against Newcastle, because they know if they drop those points, how far they're going to be off Liverpool. And it's the same in the WSL. Chelsea are absolutely formidable to be winning back-to-back trophies the amount of times that they've done. It's other teams need to step up and be like, no, we're going to be the ones to stop you this year. But it will take a huge effort.
It's going to be a very interesting coverage in the Women's Champions League this season for sure. But before we go, Ben, I asked you a question earlier on. And the question was, does La Liga and Serie A playing abroad pave the way for a Premier League match on foreign soil? And we had our little back and forth. You had your thoughts. I have mine. We agreed to disagree a little bit. But please, can you tell us the answer to the question?
Yeah, at the moment I'm told from Premier League sources that a game abroad is not being planned, and the Premier League's position is not to push for that kind of thing. Of course, the Premier League, as the most successfully commercial league in the world, are always looking for revenue opportunities. We've had the Premier League series, a relatively new pre-season tournament in North America that's into its second year, but one-off competitive games abroad, not on the radar of the Premier League. But there are one or two clubs in the minority, but nonetheless, a few clubs that I'm told are in favour of playing a competitive game abroad. So we might get a situation where a few clubs think one thing, and you only need two clubs to potentially push a potential game abroad, and the league has a different perspective. But I should reiterate one thing, which is Alexander Schäferin, the UEFA president, who's due on stage here in Portugal, and I'll be listening to this afternoon. So stay tuned to GMS channels to see what he says at the Portugal Football Summit. But UEFA and Schäferin's position is just because La Liga and Serie A have got games approved in Miami and Perth respectively, this is not a precedent. So UEFA's plan is to continue to oppose competitive league games abroad, and the Premier League are largely aligned with that. So I don't think we're going to see anything imminent, Joel, in terms of Premier League fixtures abroad. But again, what I can tell you is not all 20 clubs share that Premier League position. There is a handful that, for the right money and the right circumstances, would be open to playing a competitive fixture abroad.
I just think it will be so cool to see Sunderland playing in a different country. Just forget about the top six or whatever, because like we're there for the Champions League games, Europa League games, conference, whatever. But I think the smaller teams, can you imagine, being in Sevilla and you now have honorary Wolves fans? To me, I think everybody deserves that opportunity.
My sort of feeling, Joel, is that if I wasn't in England, then as a, let's just call it, supporter of a Big Six side, you would love the idea of a team coming to your region and playing a competitive fixture. My concern is the fact that once you do one, it's a slippery slope. And suddenly there's 3 or 6 or 10. And before you know it, you're taking the home games away from the home fans, the home communities. So I'm not so old school that I'm saying absolutely everything in every tournament needs to be at the home stadium and available first and foremost to the home fans. But what I'm saying is, if it happens, it has to be the exception, not the rule. It has to be one game or only a handful of games. And the danger is, how do you pick the teams? If the money's great, it's an advantage to one team or two teams and not to others. And at the same time, you're taking a home game away from the home fans that have paid for those season ticket. Maybe those fans have to dig deep into their own pockets to get to the away game abroad. There's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of hurdles. And I just think the more it's done, the more normalized it becomes and the more disenfranchised a club could become from its home roots. So I am against it, but I'm not so against it that I wouldn't like to see it happen once to see whether my mind could be changed.
Leicester in Milan. I mean, come on, Ben.
Now you've told me.
Yeah, but I do hear what you're saying. And look, this is why I'm not one of the higher ups in football, mate. I'm just a fan trying to enjoy the game and a presenter trying to do my job. But listen, I have to say,
before we go, and I know that we're tight on time because we have an hour stop, so you've only got about 1 minute here, but I'd be remiss if we don't finish off with a final thought, which is, and I can't believe it's taken us 57 minutes to get this far, Arsenal, international break, they're top of the league. What are your thoughts?
Ben, I thought you would never ask. Very impressed because I've not seen us come back from a 5-point deficit for a long time, despite only when Arsene Wenger was trying to get top 4 and we would, get there by the end of the season or whatnot. But in general, I think we've shown a lot of resilience, a lot of strength, and it's a great place to be for a week and a half. And I just hope that the boys don't stop working hard. They come back with the same mindset, because just as we've been able to claim back a 5-point deficit, other teams can do the same. Chelsea are now in form. Man City are quietly going about their business. We're still at the start of the season. I don't think we can start taking the Premier League table seriously until January, all we have to do is keep on doing our thing. And that's the mature Joel Beya this season. No cigars, no. I promised everyone. And
that's the married Joel Beya.
For now. For now, I'm sticking by it. Not for now, I'm married, just in case my wife is watching. But, I have to say, though, thank you very much, everybody watching. It's been a very enjoyable show. We've had some great guests. The guests are just getting better and better. And I have to give a shout out to the GiveMeSport team because I know they work so hard behind the scenes, including Ben as well. So massive shout out to you. We'll be back in a couple of weeks' time. But then you can actually keep up to date with the GiveMeSport news by going on the website, on social channels. We'll have loads of big names, bigger interviews as we're doing. And of course, content coming from the Portugal Football Summit. Until then, you can listen back on the podcast app of your choice. Just search for Market Madness. For more info on any of the stories we've discussed and much more, head to GiveMeSport.com, and I'll see you soon. Peace.